Alright, so you've got Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, and maybe you've already watched my beginner setup guide, and maybe you also watched my useful and unique features guide on this phone, and now you want to learn how to truly make your folding phone more your own style. So that when people see your home screen setups, they'll be like, damn! And then they'll ask you,
how'd you do that?
And if you wanted to be kind, you could send them this video. But anyway, let me show you how to customize like a pro. I've got 20 tips and tricks and hidden features for you guys. We'll start with the basic need to know stuff first, and gradually as we go through this video, I'll show you some customization hacks that a lot of people just don't know. Okay, so this is definitely the first thing you should know how to do, and do keep in mind this affects a few of the other tips going forward. So you've got to be quite mindful about your choices here. And of course I am referring to the wallpaper. So if you pinch the home screen here, bottom left corner, you will see wallpaper and style. Tap that. Now tap change wallpaper. And there are a bunch of different options. The featured ones are nice. So this one at the top here is exclusive to the Samsung Fold devices, and they have this kind of animation when you open and close the device. So this is a good option. You can actually modify this a little bit by hitting the variations here at the bottom, and you've got 4 different color options to choose from. My favorite is definitely this one here, the blue one. Some other interesting wallpaper options to look at before you decide on one, the dynamic wallpapers. So these actually gradually change colors throughout the day, and you do have a couple of different styles again to choose from. What I found with these is they are really nice. They're not too distracting, although sometimes they show colors that I'm not a big fan of. And also it might ruin some of the pro tips I'm going to show you a little later on. So I'm not going to use one of those in this video, but there is one more thing I want to show you here, and it's this, the Create with AI. This tool can allow you to create something very unique. So what you can do is actually flick through these styles up here at the top. If any of these catch your eye and you like them, then choose that category. Once you've chosen that category, you can then modify the words that are highlighted here and here. And selecting from any of these, I'm going to go Moonstone, and then instead of neutral, I'm going to go vibrant and generate. This is essentially an AI image generation tool, which can create some really nice wallpapers for you guys. Now, there is another option here when it comes to wallpapers, and when you use this option, there is some more settings that you can play with to modify things. So if you pinch the home screen, go to wallpaper and style, go to change wallpaper again. This time you can hit the little arrow up here to go into your gallery, or if you've literally just downloaded a wallpaper, you can go to downloads right here. One of the most popular wallpapers on the channel is this one right here, the Master Yoda. So this is how that wallpaper looks right now. But check this out, at the bottom, you have this suggest button. So this will use AI to try and adjust the image for you and create something very, very unique. But if you want to have slightly more manual control over how to modify this custom wallpaper, you can go to the frame option here and choose different frames. And you can see how it kind of pops out the subject of the image from the frame, and it's a nice effect. Once you have this set up how you like, you can also adjust the colors here of the background. You can actually even erase the background entirely if you want to. Now you can see that looks pretty good for the lock screen, but on the home screen, it doesn't look quite as good because there's loads of stuff on top of it. So what you can actually do here is add an effect. If you go to this, you can swipe across and blur the background a bit. And there are also other color options here that can modify that wallpaper. And I really like this ink drawing effect as well. That's really cool. If you're wondering what I do personally, I prefer to have the blur effect on, so all of the sharp edges and details in the background do not distract me from what's on the home screens. Okay, this next customization tip works hand in hand with the wallpaper and the color scheme of your current wallpaper. Check this out, pinch the home screen, go to wallpaper and style. It's this section right here that we're going to look at, the color palettes. So this feature will be switched off by default. Your current settings and navigation menus will look like this at the top. If you enable the color palette, this actually takes samples from your wallpaper and then creates these complementary color schemes at the bottom. So what you can do here is have a look through these different color palettes and see which ones look nicest on your settings menus. Now let's say you don't like any of these color palette suggestions down here. What you can do is choose a solid color, and this will affect all of your UI text and things like that. Well, most of it, some of it will remain white. But here's something I personally like quite a bit. If you swipe across on these colors, you do get some two-tone options. So instead of just one static color, you can have 2. Once you're happy with that, you can hit apply. So now that you've done that, those colors will appear in various places on the UI right here. For example, we've got the purple up here and the blue over here. So a lot of people already know how to create folders. You simply just drag apps on top of other apps, and that will create a generic folder like so. Now you can take this one step further by holding your finger down on that folder and then enlarging it, making it a folder that can display 8 apps. And those apps are clickable without opening the folder as well. But here's where it gets even more interesting. If you tap on that folder, you'll see a little dot up here. If you tap that dot, this opens up some color options. So there's some preset ones based off of the palette that you just set up. But if you want to get really, really creative with this, you can actually open up the color swatches right here and choose a very specific color that you want. You could even use the pipette tool here to grab some colors. For example, this pinky red color on the Galaxy Store app. And now that folder is that exact color, and actually it's matched it so well that you can barely see the circle around the app. Now here's the next step to this. If you tap on that folder again, back into the colors, back into the color swatches, you can actually adjust the transparency. Now we have a slightly transparent, opaque folder. Okay, here's the first pro customization tip. If you want to get real scientific with the colors that you're using so that they work perfectly with your wallpaper, then check this out. Go to the Chrome app or your Samsung Internet app, search for Adobe Color, go to create color themes, and then here where you see color harmony, if you use that little drop down there, go to complementary. What you can actually do here is drag this little wheel to the color of your background. In my case, it's kind of a greenish blue. This then shows you all of the complementary colors that will contrast really nicely with your wallpaper. And then if you scroll down, you can even see the hex codes right here. And if you want to copy any of those hex codes, you just tap on them and it copies to your clipboard. Now, when you're customizing folder colors, you can literally go to the swatches and then paste in the hex code down here for that exact color. Okay, this one piggybacks off the last one. And as you can see right here, we have the standard size apps. You can customize the size of those apps by going to the settings and changing the size right here. It is quite limited how much you can adjust those. And now that we're speaking about it, there's actually two things that I would want to see from One UI in the future. I'd want to see more folder shape options. And also I'd want to see more icon shape options.
And I want a toilet made out of solid gold, but it's just not in the cards now, is it?
But hey, we've got to work with what we got right now. So here's a little hack to make apps even smaller. So let's take this folder here, for example, my audio folder. If I open this up at the top here where you see the little color button, go to the color swatches again. And then here where it says 100%, we're going to take this slider and dial it all the way down to 0 so that it's fully transparent. And now we have miniature apps and these are launchable without having to open the folder first. Okay, so this next customization trick is only available on Samsung phones and Pixel phones right now, as far as I know. And I am talking about the ability to customize the Google search bar. So if you hold your finger down on this, go to the settings on this widget, and here we have a bunch of really cool options. You can play around with the presets. So that's pretty much the standard one, the light mode one, the dark mode one, and then you've got the device color scheme. So remember how I said the palette and the color scheme is important and it affects other things. So this is one of the things that it affects. But if you want to get really creative with this, just go to custom right here. You can dial in the hue just by sliding this around. I did like that dark purplish color. You can adjust the saturation of the hue. If you scroll down, you can adjust the transparency. And then if you swipe down a little bit more, there are a couple more options. So if you go to shortcuts, you can add things like the song search or translate. So definitely take a look at these. And if you are going on holiday, maybe the translate with camera could be a good option. Okay, so this next customization tip will take you a little bit of time, but it will be well worth it. If you pinch the home screen, you go to settings here, the cover screen mirroring setting will be on by default. What this means is that when you open your phone, the same setup that you have on your cover screen will be reflected on the inside. However, I do believe you should optimize the inner display to make use of the space and really prioritize the apps that work better on the inner display. Just to explain my basic setups here on both screens, my home screen is all of my everyday apps and important information that I need to access quickly without having to look for it. The second page is my productivity page. So I have my calendar, all my money apps, all my emails and note-taking apps and things like that. And then this third page is full of apps that can rob me of my time or my money. And as you know, those are two things you don't want to waste. So I make them harder to access by having them the furthest away. On the big screen, I do have a similar approach. So day-to-day apps, plus I've added my music apps, which I use quite a lot and I use them pretty much every day. And I have a bunch of quick widgets here to access tools and things and important information. Second page again, productivity page. And then third page again, time wasting and money wasting page. And you'll notice I have these giant folders here, different colors, and they're larger than what would fit side by side on the cover screen standalone. The other advantage to this is you can actually add more apps across the bottom manually. If you do go with the cover screen mirroring on, you don't get as much freedom to do that. So I do recommend you spend a little bit of time setting up two different setups for your home screen and your lock screen separately, so that it makes sense. Okay, so here is some settings and options that you need to look at when it comes to the edge panel. The edge panel is the little bar down the side here that you can swipe out. If you hit the little settings icon here, you can jump into all of the edge panels that are available to the phone. You'll see right now I've actually got two. I've got the apps and then I've also got the tools. You can add your favorite contacts to the edge panel. You can add tasks, weather, clipboard, which could be very, very useful, and reminders. Now the reason I've added tools is this. When you swipe out the edge panel and swipe out again, you can get to your tools. Now if you hit the three dots in the top right corner, here are some really useful tools that most people don't know about. So you have a tally counter if you're sort of tracking every cycle of someone running around the track or something like that. You've also got a torch here, so you can activate that and actually adjust the brightness and dim the brightness of the torch. And check this out, on the torch tool, there is an SOS button down here. If you hit that, that actually sends a signal using Morse code. You've also got a surface level. If you want to check whether something is level, you can place your phone on it with the flat side, obviously, and then use your phone as a spirit level. And the last useful tool here is the ruler. So you can actually use this to measure things, which could prove to be useful at some point in time. I don't think I've ever seen this on any other phone. And you can even switch this between inches and centimeters if you need to. Okay, now let's make using the edge panels even easier. So if you jump into your settings over here, go to display on the left side, and then on the right side, if you scroll down until you see edge panels right there, it should be switched on. Tap on that. Here are the settings for the edge panels. You can also access the tools that I just showed you from here as well. But what we're going to do is tap here where it says handle. And here we have a bunch of customization options for the handle bar, which is this one here. I've got it purple right now. So you can choose the color of the handlebar. You can also lock the position if you want. You can change the position also if you want. I do recommend keeping this slightly higher up on the screen because you don't want to access it by accident when you're swiping between pages. You can adjust the transparency, so you can actually make it almost invisible, just an outline if you wanted to. You can change the height of the handlebar as well if you want, and even the thickness. I personally keep this on thin so it's less distracting, and I do keep it quite transparent as well so it's not catching my eye all the time, but I still want to see that purple color a little bit. The other thing that you can do here is if you jump into the color swatches, remember how I showed you the Adobe color complementary picker thing? You could paste your hex codes in here if you wanted to scientifically choose a color to match your wallpaper. And you also got the color picker tool down here, so you can grab colors from somewhere on the screen. For example, let's say we want this blue, we could add that. Now that matches the user interface, but it does sort of blend a bit too much with the background in my opinion there, so I'm going to change it back. So there is one more setting for the edge panels which a lot of people don't know about. If you swipe it out, hit the pen at the bottom here, this opens up the apps that you can add to the edge panel. But if you hit the three dots in the top right corner, you can activate show recent apps. So this I've found to be pretty handy, particularly when it comes to creating split screen app pairs or trios quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to show you very quickly how to create an app pair. There are various ways to do it, but here's one useful app pair that I think you might want to use a lot if you're doing research and things. So if you open up your Samsung Internet, let's say you're researching quantum computing and you want to take notes. Well, what you can do is bring out your edge panel here, drag the Samsung Notes app onto the edge right here, and now you have this app pair. Both of these apps actually have AI tools within them, so it could be really useful to save this app pair. To do that, just hit the three dots in the middle and then hit this little star right here and add it to the edge panel. Now, what I want to show you here is how Samsung have improved this a little bit. So you can actually move that page off to the side like that and just tap it to bring it back and tap that one to bring it back. So you can switch back and forth between the two really quickly instead of having them split down the middle. That just makes this side a bit easier to read. And then when you want to take some notes, you can just tap on the edge here to get back to your notepad. So that's a little bonus tip for you guys and a nice little app pair to set up. Maybe you want to save it to your edge panel. Maybe you want to save it to your taskbar. but I do think that is probably one of the most useful use cases for an app pair. Okay, here's a nice little customization trick that a lot of people don't know about. If you jump into your settings, scroll down on the left-hand side to where you see notifications. On the right side, go to notification pop-up style. Here you can choose whether you just want a brief pop-up or an expanded, detailed pop-up. And now what you can do here is add a lighting effect. Okay, so there are various different styles to choose from here. And one of the cool things about this is you can actually customize these even further. I do like this spotlight one. It's not too over the top, but just to show you guys what you can do, I'm going to use this glitter one. If you go to advanced, you can change the duration of how long that is. You can also change the width of how much shows around the edges and even the transparency of that. If you use some of the other options, which are static colors, you do get a few different options. For example, if you go with the heart option, you can choose different colors manually. If you want, you can use your color swatches. Like I said before, with that color palette that you've just found on Adobe Color, you can paste that hex code in right here. And again, if you jump into advanced, you can make various adjustments to the transparency, width, and duration of that animation. My personal favorite effect is the spotlight. It's not too over the top, and you do get the option to adjust the colors of that as well. But there is an even more advanced step to this, which makes these animations even more useful. So if you go to lighting effect by keyword and tap on the text field right here where it says keyword, what you can do is type in people's names exactly how they appear in your phone book and then assign a color to them. Hit the little plus. Here you can access the color swatches, and again, those hex codes which you discovered earlier could come in handy here because you can just paste them in or type them in to get that perfect color match. Now here is a setting that some people might really like and some might not. I'm gonna show you what it is and you can decide for yourself. So if you jump into the settings on the inner display here, scroll down to display, scroll down on the right hand side, and here you'll see taskbar, and it will be switched on by default. Tap on that. If you don't want to have to swipe up every time to access the taskbar when you're inside of another app, you can tap here and switch it on permanently. Now, whenever you open any app, the taskbar will be available at the bottom, and this does mean you can quickly create app pairs at any time this way. Maybe this is even easier than using the Edge panel. Something that's fairly new to One UI is the now bar. So that's this little bar that pops up at the top. Various things can appear here, and it's even accessible on the lock screen, and you can swipe between them when there's more than one. But what some people might not know is there is some settings that you might want to customize to make this a little bit more useful for yourself. So if you don't already have your Now Briefing widget on your home screen, you can add it very easily just by pinching, going to widgets here, going to Now Brief right here, and then dragging it onto the screen. You've also got two different sizes to choose from. What I've actually done is added it to a widget stack. So if you hold your finger down on a widget that you already have, go to edit stack here. And then if you go all the way to the end, you can hit the plus and then add it this way. Now, once you've opened this up, there is a couple of settings that you want to look at. Scroll down on the Now Brief and allow your Google Maps. At the top of the Now Brief, you can also go to settings to allow it to include photos and moments from your gallery, and even use it to find your parking spot. So if you lose your car in a car park or something, you can use Now Brief to get back to it. And you can even turn on YouTube to get recommendations from your subscriptions. So spend some time, set up your Now Brief with the stuff that is most useful to you. Get rid of the stuff that isn't useful at all. All right, so you know that Monday morning feeling. Well, listen, if you do this, you can get a little bit of an advanced heads up on how the day is going to be. What you need to do is swipe up from the bottom, type in modes and routines here, and it will appear. This is kind of a hidden app. Now, once you're within the app, you want to go to the Discover section and scroll all the way to the bottom. Here you'll find 3 brand new routines that can help you out in the morning. You've got a cold weather alert, a morning briefing, and an umbrella reminder, which is particularly handy if you live in the UK. Now, something you need to know is that these routines do rely on the Samsung clock. So you have to set your alarm that you want to use to trigger these alerts. So I'm just going to use this one. And just make sure you hit save on these so that they're fully set up. Now, when your alarm clock goes off in the morning, you will get a readout of what's going on outside. And this is just an example of how it sounds.
It might rain today. Take an umbrella if you go outside.
Okay, here's a quick one. If you jump into your settings, on the left side, we're going to go to notifications. On the right side, if you scroll down to advanced settings, here you can actually change the floating notifications to smart pop-up. And here you can actually choose which apps will send you these smart pop-up view options. So essentially when you get a notification, you could tap it and it opens up in a little window. So for me, for example, maybe the Eufy cameras could be a good one. If I want to see what's going on quickly, whenever my camera is triggered, a little floating notification will pop up. I can tap it and expand it very quickly. Another notification setting that you might want to customize on day one is this. Go to sounds and vibrations on the main menu. And then here, go to notification sound. There are a bunch of different options here. What you'll find is most people will just use the default one. And then when you're in a room with loads of people with the same phone, everyone will be looking at their phones every time that notification sound happens. And there is something else you could do here. If you go to notification and vibration pattern, you can actually sync it with the sound that you've chosen, or you could choose a specific type of vibration pattern. The idea here is to just make your notifications a bit more customized. Okay, staying within sounds and vibrations, another thing you want to customize is your ringtone. Again, just like before, a lot of people will just leave this on the default and it will sound just like everybody else's phone. So I do recommend you take a look at this and just scroll through, test out some of these other ones. And actually, if you do have any music on your phone that you prefer to use instead of these ones here, just hit the little plus at the top and then that will give you access to the music on your device, if there is any. And I do recommend, if you work in a noisy environment, switching on vibrate while ringing. Now there is one more setting that you can switch on to improve your notifications even more. If you jump into your settings again, on the left side, go to sound and vibrations. On the right side, if you go to vibration intensity, at the bottom here, you'll see the option for vibration sound for incoming calls. So this actually uses vibrations to enhance the loudness of your ringtone. Now, since we're talking about sound, here's another quick one that can improve the sound quality coming from your device. So if you struggle with your hearing at all, then you definitely want to do this. Go to settings, sound and vibration, sound quality and effects. Here you'll see a bunch of different options. You've got Dolby Atmos at the top, it's set to auto. I recommend you leave it on auto. You've got an equalizer if you want to adjust the EQ. But here's the ones that I think will be most useful to some people. Sometimes it's just how a movie or video content is mixed. But what you might find from time to time is that the dialogue, the voices in certain types of content gets washed out. So you do have the option to boost dialogue here and even activate a tool that balances sound so you're not blasting your ears by accident. And there is something that's really quite advanced. If you do want to calibrate an EQ specifically for your type of ears, if you go to adapt sound here, you can actually go through a little hearing test setup and then create an EQ which is tailored specifically to your hearing abilities. So if you do want to customize the sound, this is probably the best way to do it. Okay, so I haven't really spoken that much about widgets and how to create widget stacks. So let me show you that really quickly. So to create a widget stack, all you need to do is hold your finger down on the widget and then you will see create stack over here. You'll then have the option to add widgets from your device. And you can add pretty much anything you want, as long as it's roughly the right size. Now, once you've created a widget stack, you can swipe back and forth between them. And if you hold your finger down on it again, you can actually go to edit stack. And now there's a little plus button here where you can add even more. But you can even do a bit more customization to this. So for example, let's say this battery widget here, if I hold my finger down on it, go to settings, this brings up the settings for this specific widget. Here we can remove the background entirely if we want. We can also have it match the light mode or the dark mode, or just adjust the transparency a little bit. I really like how this looks without a background, so I'm going with that. Now I've got the battery life on my Galaxy devices visible but without a background, and I think that looks pretty nice. And do keep in mind you have different customization options depending on the shape of the widget. So these square ones right here, if you hold your finger down on those, go to settings right here. Here you can change various different shapes, and then you won't be able to get rid of the background entirely, but you can make it more transparent, and you can also switch it to light mode or dark mode if you want. And one widget that's extremely powerful right now is this one, the Gemini widget, because you've got the live chat right here, but you've also got the camera tool right here. And when you activate this, you can actually point your camera at something and ask questions about it. For example, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at a Stormtrooper figurine. Do you have any questions about it?
What's the pose this figure is pulling?
It looks like the Stormtrooper is doing the thinker pose, with its hand up to its helmet as if it's pondering something. Is there anything else I can help you with regarding the figurine?
No, but what about this? What's this all about?
Those look like some fun stickers. The big one says Try Galaxy, and the smaller one has a smiley face.
What's this over here?
That's a Datacolor Spider Checker 24 color chart. It's used for calibrating colors in photos and videos. Do you have any questions about color calibration or how this chart is used?
So you get the idea. The camera tool is so useful on this phone, and in fact is probably even more useful on the Galaxy Flip, and I am doing some videos on that phone if you guys want to check those out. I'll link those at the end. Okay, since we're talking about widgets, let me show you how to add them to your lock screens, and do keep in mind you have two separate lock screens, one here and then one on the cover screen. So if you hold your finger down on the lock screen and unlock your phone, this is a quick way to jump into the lock screen settings. Here you can tap the clock and adjust the style of the clock. The new one is this one right here. I did explain that in my beginner's guide, so I'm not going to go too much in depth into that. But what I want to show you is this section right here, the widget section. So you can customize this however you want just by tapping on these. I'm going to delete these two right here and show you some of the options. So one of the ones that I always use is the recorder. The reason being is you can actually activate the recorder from the lock screen without having to unlock the phone. This one gives you a timer as well. One of the reasons this is so powerful is because now you can auto transcribe 3-hour recordings and then summarize them. Before it was literally like 10 minutes. Something else that I like to add, because I have a bunch of Samsung stuff like the Ring and the watch and the earbuds, is the battery widget as well. So I can keep an eye on some of my battery levels here. You can customize these as much as you want. You only get 4 spaces, so do make use of those. A couple more things you might want to customize here is the shortcuts for the phone and for the camera. If you want to change these, just tap on them and then you get all of the different options right there. The widgets are kind of locked to the clock, but they will shift if you move them to the left or right hand side. Once you're happy with your setup, just hit done. And just to show you how these look on the lock screen, here you can access the recorder and you'll see it start down here, and you can expand it and you can stop it here if you want. Okay, so you've made it this far, and if you've watched any of my other tips and tricks videos, you will know I've saved some bonus tips and tricks for you guys. And some of these are fan favorites and some of them are very advanced. So think of these as a reward for staying this long. All right, number 1. I have shown this in one of my other setup guides, but this is one of the fan favorites, so I'll show you again just for good measure. Pinch the home screen, go to wallpaper and change wallpapers, and then here go to photo ambient. Make sure you allow local weather updates, go back to photo ambient and choose a wallpaper that you want to use with this added effect. Now, if you hit play, you'll see exactly what this does. It essentially adds contextual animations to your lock screen, so you'll know what the weather's like outside before you even look out the window. And once again, something that's important to remember is that this lock screen on the inner display works independently from the lock screen on the cover display. So on the cover display, you have to kind of do the same thing. Jump into the wallpapers, go to photo ambient again, different image for this one. I'm going to choose the Stormtrooper here. And once again, you'll see it adds the dynamic effects. And this feature actually makes your lock screen wallpaper useful. So let's say you like the new clock, but maybe you want something even more unique. Well, there is another way to access even more options. And you can do this by going to an exclusive Samsung app, which you can only find in the Galaxy Store, and it's called Good Lock. Once you've downloaded and installed this app, there is a bunch of little additions, like extra apps within this app that you can play around with. But the one I want to show you right now is this one, Clock Face. So if you tap on that, here you have so much more access to so many more clock faces. It's insane. Just for example, let's go with this one right here. Hit the little tick, and there we go. It's added it to the lock screen. And this is very unique. I guarantee you, most Samsung users will never even look at these customization options. And if you want to be really unique and you're a little bit creative, you can go to My Clock here and create your own clock using GIFs and images, and you can choose your text. It is quite a complex setup, but if you've got time to spend on it, you can really create something unique here. And if you want to, you can even create watch faces if you have a Galaxy watch. Again, from scratch, if you want to, you just go to My Clock and then create one there. So at this point, you've probably already customized your palette, and that's affected all of your system UI. And you've also got a custom color on the volume right here. But did you know you can actually customize this bit even further? Again, within the Good Lock app, this time we're going to go to Sound Assistant, hit continue, give it the permissions that it needs. And at the top of this page, you will see make your own volume panel colors. And here are a bunch of different options and different lighting effects that you can choose. So just switch this on. I think the purple and blue goes quite nicely with the color scheme. Or maybe this one actually. Now that that's done, whenever you adjust volume, you'll have this nice animated effect on your volume slider. Okay, here is another pro tip from GoodLock. And I have made a video all about GoodLock. It was quite a while ago now, so probably should make a newer version of it. But if you want to check it out, I will pin it at the end. So anyway, back in GoodLock, we're going to check out KeysCaf this time. This gives you a bunch of options to customize your keyboard, give it all of the permissions that it needs. Now here you can tap on style your own keyboard, and here you'll find a bunch of pre-made keyboards that have effects linked to them. And if you hit this little icon up here, you can see how these effects look. And if you want to customize the effects at the bottom here, you can actually choose different patterns, different animations and all that stuff. And you can even customize the sound of the key presses. Okay, here is another pro tip. If we go back into GoodLock again, this time we're going to go to Edge Lighting Plus. If you haven't installed it, just install it. It will be there in the list. Now, remember how we set up keywords for certain people and different colors to pop up and different animations when those people message? Well, this is a more advanced approach to that with more animations and more options. So check this out. If you go style by keyword, you can actually choose what title triggers the animation, and you could separately choose what content triggers the animation. So for example, here for notification titles, this works well with names of people in your phone book. So that's how my work phone number appears in my phone book. And this is case sensitive as well, remember. If you tap here where the little flower is, you can unlock the new animation options. And there's some really fun ones here. Some of them are quite girly, to be honest. But this one here is the one I'm going with. And once you've chosen your animation, you can go to color and choose a specific color. You've got to make sure this little tick box is on for this to work. And you've also got the color picker as well. So going back to that Adobe color tool, which I showed you, you can use the hex code again here if you want to. And if you go to advanced, you can actually add different shapes and things. And you can even adjust the size and how long they animate for, the amount of little particles, and if they rotate as well. It's pretty cool. Now, the other thing you can do here, separate from just using this for contacts and things, is to use it for content. So let's say someone messages you with a keyword and you want that keyword to trigger an animation, you could do that as well. So you just type in that keyword, how it would be spelled in a message, and then set up a custom animation for that. And here's how it looks now when I get a message. And to be honest, I probably should have changed the color because it matches the wallpaper and I can't see all the little sparkles that much. So going back to the importance of the color picker thing that I showed you, use those recommended colors because they will contrast nicely against the background. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did miss my beginners tips and tricks, that's on screen right now. If you missed my most useful and unique features on the Galaxy Z Fold, that's also on screen right now. And I've also put my GoodLock guide from a while ago on screen as well, because in that one I go way more in depth into what GoodLock can do, which is kind of the next level of customization. So if that's what you're looking for, that's where you'll find it. Appreciate you guys for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, well then,
make it so. 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 Make it so.
And I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.